TYT interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people. Look at this shit-eating grin on her face. And this, I don't know what's going on look on Cenk's face. All right, let's listen to what they said.
All right, now we've got a fun and interesting guest for you guys. Joining me now on the Young Turks, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia's 14th District. Congresswoman Greene, good to have you on the Young Turks.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight.
No problem. So normally we disagree a lot, and you've seen some of that. But tonight we're going to talk about something that we might have in common, and I want to get a little bit of information about what's happening on the inside in Washington, and see if we can maybe prevent a war. So,
Marjorie Taylor Greene is opposed to war in Iran, which, by the way, if you didn't know, is ramping up. We're about to go to war with Iran, if we haven't already. At the end of Trump's last term, I believe, he had his generals write up a plan to go to war with Iran, to invade Iran. Oh my God, dude. I don't want more Middle East wars. I don't want any more wars at all. More dead bodies for no fucking reason. Just, God, who could possibly sign off on this? What kind of moron would even think this is a good idea? You know the type of moron that would think that? The type that was drafted and then got out of it because he has bone spurs. That's who. It's so disturbing. And I really, really hope to the bottom of my heart that we don't end up doing that, because that's horrifying. Marjorie Taylor Greene's opposed to it, to my surprise. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that she is lobbying against war with Iran. But she can do that over there in the corner, and I'll do it over here in my corner, because I don't want anything to fucking do with her. We'll both work on the same goal, and maybe we'll come to the same conclusion at the end. Cenk working with Marjorie Taylor Greene is not helping anything or anybody except for Marjorie Taylor Greene's reputation. It's rehabilitating that. I refuse to accept that. Cenk, you are a fool. You are a fool for rehabilitating these people's reputations when you don't have to. They can work on it over there. You can work on it over here. You don't have to help them. Anyway, let's listen to what she has to say.
Sides coming together here on what I hope is a good mission. So let's start on Iran. I'm worried about a war with Iran. It appears you're worried about a war with Iran. Do you know where it stands today within the Trump administration? Because you and Tucker Carlson and others seem so concerned that it makes me more concerned.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I just want to thank you for having me on your show tonight. I think it's incredibly important that we find common ground.
That we find people on the left that will rehabilitate right-wing provocateurs. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
As Americans, and that's never a bad thing, even when we do disagree on other issues. So thank you so much. I have been very concerned, and I'll tell you why. A little bit of my background. I'm one of those Americans that are really sick and tired of the narrative that we're constantly told that we're supposed to hate some country that's overseas, that maybe we've never been to. We don't know anything about that country, but we're told that they're the greatest threat to our freedoms and our democracy, and that we have to go to war with them. We saw this. We'll go back to Vietnam. We went to Vietnam and we lost thousands and thousands of American soldiers.
Shit, more than that.
And we lost that war. We went into Iraq. We were told we were.
Yeah, and Henry Kissinger, as I found out recently, got a Nobel Peace Prize for his role in Vietnam. Literally the last person on earth that deserved a peace prize for what happened in Vietnam. By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
American soldiers, and we lost that war. We went into Iraq. We were told we were to look for weapons of mass destruction. Well, we didn't find any, but we ended up being stuck in the Middle East for a long time, and then ended up in Afghanistan looking for Osama bin Laden, and he wasn't there either. And then we were told that the oil in the Middle East would make us rich, and we were told that rare earth minerals in Afghanistan would also make us rich. Well, that didn't. We're $36 trillion in debt. And
that's not why we're in debt. I'm sorry, I gotta stop her here. You know why we're in debt? A, because George Bush put it on the credit card, that whole war, like $6 trillion. Incidentally, you know how much it would cost to outfit the United States in fully renewable energy, no longer using coal or gas or anything at all anywhere in the US? $6 trillion. Anyway, he put it on the credit card. And then Trump kept putting shit on the card too. You know why? It's a strategy called Starve the Beast. You've probably seen it happening, but didn't know there was a name for it. It's a Republican strategy where they want the government to be so small you can, quote unquote, drown it in a bathtub. I think that's Grover Norquist. Yeah, I think that's Grover Norquist that said that in the 90s. And they know they can't cut social programs and stuff because Democrats have to sign on to that kind of thing to manage it. So they implemented a strategy called Starve the Beast where they just cut taxes and cut taxes and cut taxes until we have a $50 trillion debt and we have no choice but to cut social programs. That's what's happening. That's why we have a $36 trillion debt. Because Republicans wanted it that way, rather than taxing the rich. Instead of taxing the rich, they wanted us to have this debt. That's why the debt is there. Realistically, how could we possibly have gotten rich off of oil in the Middle East like that? Yeah, it would stimulate our economy, certainly, but that money isn't going to the government. It's not paying our debt. What the fuck are you talking about? How would that even work? It stimulates the economy, which puts more tax dollars into the system, I suppose. But $6 trillion worth of tax dollars? Come on. You'd have to tax the rich for that. You would actually have to tax the oil companies for that to happen.
For me, I'll just be really direct. I'm unapologetically for our country, the United States of America, and I want to fix our problems here at home. And I believe that's what everyone's hard-earned tax dollars are really supposed to be used for.
Well, tax dollars can stretch far enough to take care of us and also to take care of Ukraine, because this is the same route that she took when talking about not helping Ukraine. We gave them something like $130 billion or $150 billion worth of things total, and only half of that was in money or something. That's a drop in the bucket for the U.S. economy. It's almost nothing comparatively. Do you know how much we spend on Social Security payouts, which is our largest expense, I believe, as a country? You know what we spent on that in, say, 2024? Let me find out. Let me check 2023, actually, because an AI has access to that info, hopefully. Let's see. $1.4 trillion in Social Security benefits during the fiscal year 2023. That's how much, $1.4 trillion. And you're bitching about like $70 billion. This is the exact tactic that Nazis in the United States used to help Germany during World War II, or leading up to World War II, not quite there. It was called America First, the America First political party. And it was basically an attempt to get people to be more isolationist and not get involved in World War II, because that would spell doom for Germany, basically. They were trying to destroy morale for World War II, but when Japan came in and bombed Pearl Harbor, it was like 9/11. It was that degree of cultural insanity. So there's no way America First could have survived after that, and it pretty much closed its doors and reopened when Donald Trump came back around. And she's America First, for the record. She's following in the footsteps of Nazis, I'm just saying.
Hard-earned tax dollars are really supposed to be used for. And, I just...
why don't we stop using the hard-earned tax dollars and start using the easy-earned tax dollars, Filthy fucking rich people's tax dollars, let's use those. Easy-earned tax dollars.
I just don't buy the narrative anymore. We've been told for years and years and years, I'm longer than I can remember, that Iran is on the verge of having a nuclear weapon.
Not for nothing, I think it's Iran. And yeah, they have been. And they're even closer now that Donald Trump ripped up the Iran agreement.
But we continually ignore the ones that have nuclear weapons, like India, Pakistan. They're actually, starting a war with each other right now.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not here to defend Iran or war or whatever. I'm absolutely anti-war with Iran. But Iran does sponsor terrorism around the world. They provoke conflicts and cause problems and fund rebels and stuff like that, kind of like the United States historically. India does not really do that. Certainly not in a way that interferes with our domestic policy or international whatever. So India and Pakistan are way less of a direct threat to the U.S. and the U.S.'s interests than Iran, obviously. I can't believe I'm even saying this.
What about North Korea? They have nuclear weapons. China, Russia, we have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, we want to get them before they get the nukes. Are you serious with this? That's why we're not invading North Korea. Like, that's why we didn't invade it like 20 years ago, because they have nukes. I think they tested a nuke in 2009 or something. So 15 years ago, maybe. Iran doesn't have a nuke yet. So we're at a precipice now. Are we going to invade Iran, do regime change, install a puppet dictator that will guarantee that there's no nuclear whatever? Or are we going to allow nuclear proliferation? The fact is, we had a good solution. Iran agreed not to build nukes or to pursue nuclear proliferation if we unfroze their sanctioned money and all the other stuff. The Iran deal, the Iran agreement that John Kerry signed under Obama. And when Donald Trump ripped that up, it guaranteed war with Iran. It made it inevitable. Ripping up the Iran agreement was basically a death nail in the coffin of world peace. It is impossible to deal with Iran unless we have a nuclear agreement with them. So all those people saying Trump is anti-war, no, he was never anti-war. From day one, he was not anti-war. From day one, he set up the circumstances that allowed for war with Iran, or that necessitated it. And Cenk Uygur is giving Marjorie Taylor Greene this opportunity to pretend otherwise, to pretend war was an inevitability in the first place, or that war shouldn't be done, or whatever other thing, and to rehabilitate her own reputation. Just disgusting, man, really.
Korea, they have nuclear weapons. China, Russia, we have nuclear weapons. You know, many countries have nuclear weapons, but yet the problems that I see and the people that I know deal with problems like drug addiction and overdose.
I mean, yeah, we shouldn't be... Look, I'm not going to defend the war with Iran because it's absolutely 100% completely and totally indefensible. But I am going to defend helping Ukraine because that is a worthy goal, actually. We can both help Ukraine and help addicts in the United States. All we have to do is tax the fucking rich. That's it. That's all we have to do. It's not that hard. We need to tax easy earned money. I'm making that a phrase now. We need to start using easy earned tax dollars from the rich. You know, shit that they literally just sat there to make, and they made more money than I will ever see in my entire life, ever. Do you know, I'm sorry, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole for a second. Do you know that the streamer industry, that is Twitch, YouTube, Kick, whatever, streamer industry on the internet is worth $250 billion. Like, people make, streamers total, make $250 billion. And Elon Musk is worth $400 billion. Elon Musk could literally buy every streamer or every stream contract in the world. Well, in the United States, I guess, at the very least. In the United States. Or maybe in any United States companies, because this is money that companies are bringing in, I think. Could literally buy those contracts and still have money left over. Barely had just spent half of what he has. $250 billion to $400 billion. Tax, easy earned money.
Mental health is a great concern in America today. And we've really got to do something to make everything affordable for every single person that lives in this country.
Like she fucking cares about any of this. All of a sudden, when it comes to opposing something, she's going to be like the most reasonable human being alive. She has had an opportunity to, you know, fight, like do shit to prevent this or to make things better for people. She's had these opportunities for like ever. And she's specifically chosen not to. So I don't want to fucking hear it.
And here's the bottom line. My job title is United States House of Representatives. I'm a representative for the United States, for Georgia's 14th district. And that means that we've got to focus here at home instead of worrying about running off and going to another war.
Well, I mean, foreign conflicts most definitely affect the United States, right? Like, Russia fucking hates us. Honestly, people don't realize this. They fucking hate the United States. I mean, the leadership. You know why? Specifically Putin? Because he's ex-KGB. He used to be a KGB agent. And, you know, the Cold War ended for the United States. Like, we don't give a fuck anymore. But it didn't end for Russia. It didn't end for Putin. He's still stuck in that mindset. He views himself as an adversary now, today, of America. I don't have a problem with Russia. They have a problem with me. So spending money to embarrass a historical adversary is the best money that the United States has ever spent to undermine their power and authority on a world stage by showing how fucking weak they are, that they can't even take on a Ukrainian military, a military of a country that's like half their size. That shit's embarrassing. Putin said he would have Ukraine done in 2 weeks, and here we are years later. The point is, Ukraine is the best money we have ever spent, and we don't have to waste American lives to do it. She uses these exact same arguments to justify helping Vladimir Putin, is my problem. Now, she's correct in that we should not be going to war with Iran. Absolutely 100% correct on that one. But I'm not going to let her get away with slipping in these defenses of, like, getting out of Ukraine along with her Iran criticisms.
Another foreign war that we don't belong in.
Yep.
You notice that? Another foreign war. In addition to Ukraine, in addition to Iran, also Ukraine included in that, in her mind.
Okay, you know, we're living very interesting times because a lot of people on the left say don't even have Marjorie Taylor Greene on. And
yeah, you're rehabilitating her reputation. Don't have her on.
You know, if you do, you got to yell at her, etc. And so,
well, you have to call her out for the stupid shit she said, at least.
We asked our audience, Representative Greene, on our website, tyt.com, whether we should have you on. And it looks like, what is that? 82% say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating conversation, but you're rehabilitating. You cannot let her get away with trash, with nonsense like she's laying down. You need to call her on it. You can even have a civilized conversation. I am perfectly fine with that. But call her on her shit when she lays it down.
And here you are. And once you come on, it turns out, oh, wait, you agree with us on Iran? And by the way, you agree with us on Vietnam and Iraq. So,
and Ukraine? What about Ukraine?
If we can actually prevent a war together, that would be amazing. So, but now let's talk about, yes, but how deep is it right now? Like, I know for the Iraq war, they did a lot of propaganda, and Young Turks has been around forever. We're the longest running show in internet history.
Yeah, fascinatingly, they have not done any propaganda winding us up to the war with Iran. I'm actually really surprised by that. That's what happens, you know, leading up to the war, you always get a ton of propaganda. That happened in Vietnam, said that we were trying to save freedom and prevent communism around the world and blah, 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 all that other stupid shit, you know? And for some reason they're not saying this shit about Iran. That's really weird, right?
History. And so we were on the air for the Iraq war. And at the time, Ben Mankiewicz and I were like, no, don't go. They didn't attack us, right? But they built up a lot of propaganda before they went in and did the attack. In this case, it looks like there's some significant drama, moving of the chairs around in the Pentagon, in the National Security Advisor group. So do you have a better sense of how close we are to war right now?
Well, there was a development today. You know, I've been constantly saying for several weeks now, I've never seen a Houthi or a Houthi or however you pronounce it. I don't even know what they look like. I haven't seen them.
I've seen them, and I'll tell you what they look like. Actually, they look like human beings. My God, fucking shit. Anyway, what a warped thing to say in the first. I don't even know what they look like. I'm not defending war. It's indefensible in my opinion, but you cannot deny that it has something to do with us, right?
Back home in Rome, Georgia, where I live, I haven't seen them in Washington, D.C., And I keep saying that, how is this a threat to everyday Americans when?
Well, that means you're a short-sighted dip if you don't understand how they're a threat to everyday Americans, quote unquote. Again, like, I'm not defending war with anybody. I am a pacifist to the core, but it's kind of fucking absurd that she doesn't understand how the basics of this work.
They are not threatening us here at home on our homeland. And I think this narrative broke through, and I was excited to see President Trump say today from the White House during one of his press conferences that there has been communication with the Houthis, with Yemen, and they have decided that they have said they won't bomb ships anymore. And President Trump said, well, we will not bomb the Houthis. So I think that that's significant, and I was very happy to hear it. But I also think it was important to speak out. And I thought it was important to remind everyone here in Washington that always seems to forget the campaign promises that are made on the campaign trail, that the biggest part of this campaign, one of them, was no more foreign wars. No matter which country it is. We don't want to go to war for Ukraine. We don't want to go to war against Iran.
See, she's piggybacking it in. She's walking that little bit in there that we don't want to go to war with or for Ukraine. We're not going to war for Ukraine. We are helping a historical ally fight a historical adversary that fucking hates us. And we're not, no American lives. We don't have to spend a fucking single American life on this because these people have found themselves in the middle of a war and are burning up, they're burning up their own resources. The least we can do is help them by arming them, by giving them, whatever it is we can give them, weapons, blankets, whatever. It is just, God, she's so fucking vile, dude. She is so vile.
I don't think we should be fighting wars on behalf of Israel. And many Americans.
There you go. I'm a fan, but we're not, is the thing. We're not fighting wars on behalf. Well, I guess Iran would be the war on behalf of Israel, right? So, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Americans agree with that. So I was pleased to see President Trump's announcement today that there had been communication and they said no more bombs.
So look, first, credit where credit is due. When Netanyahu asked him to bomb Iran and Trump didn't, about a week or 2 weeks ago, I was very happy about that, and I gave Trump credit for that. And now you're, reporting more good news about, not bombing Yemen anymore. We'll see if that holds. But Representative Greene, we're having these conversations because the Trump administration is filled with neocons. If it wasn't filled with neocons, we wouldn't need this conversation. He said anti-war. You're very clear about that. You're super clear about that. I'm clear about it. But all of a sudden, we're having a conversation about how we might go to war. So how do you think the neocons got there, and how powerful do you think they are within the Trump administration?
Well,
dude, neocons are everything in the Trump administration, in my personal opinion. I think neocons control it. Basically, I think that the pro-war faction controls it. There is no anti-war faction of Donald Trump. He just didn't see the use in being in a certain, in this or that conflict or whatever, and pretends to be anti-war. There's no, he didn't pull us out of Afghanistan. He didn't pull us out of Iraq. He didn't pull us out of anything. Why do people think he's anti-war? He didn't start something new. Congratulations, as far as I know. Is that the bar now for being anti-war? I figure the bar is not bringing us to a point where war is inevitable, like tearing up the Iran nuclear agreement, for example. That's my bar.
Well, I would say they're powerful on both sides of the aisle.
You know what's annoying about this game? It's such a good game. Oh my God, it's so good. But it's very, very linear. You have to follow everything exactly. You cannot step out of line or anything at all. And that's kind of frustrating. I would like to explore a little bit, Anyway, whatever. Oh, she's going to give us a both sides argument here. Ready?
Neocons got there, and how powerful do you think they are within the Trump administration?
Well, I would say they're powerful on both sides of the aisle, to be honest with you.
Give it a fucking rest. No. One side does things like the nuclear agreement that prevents war, and the other side does things like tear up the nuclear agreement, thus guaranteeing war effectively. So I don't want to fucking hear it. No, they are not the same. Not even close to the same.
We saw Democrats in the House and Senate vote overwhelmingly to fund the war in Ukraine. And we saw.
Yeah, this is so the war in Ukraine, not the same as the war in Israel. It's really not a war, it's a genocide. Or the war in Iran, if there were to be one. Not the same, because for one thing, we have no place to fund a fucking genocide. Israel is a genocide. We should be preventing that, not aiding it. Iran is going to require boots on the ground. Ukraine is embarrassing a historical adversary, and we don't have to put any boots on the ground. We have to pay practically nothing, and it's widely supported by everybody. Morale is through the fucking roof for this. There is no downside to this, to helping Ukraine do this. Like, really, it's absolutely insane and laughable and sad at the same time that we find ourselves in a position now where we are even talking about whether Ukraine should be, whether we should fund Ukraine or help Ukraine or whatever. What the fuck?
Fund the war in Ukraine. And we saw Republicans do the same thing in the House and the Senate. So I would say this is not a one-party problem. This is a two-party problem. And this is also the military-industrial complex that is very, very powerful because they keep, no matter what administration it is, they somehow find a way to get their foreign wars. However, I really give President Trump a lot of credit for standing up against this. And the announcement he said today was, I think, extremely significant. But we still have a long ways to go. And no matter who is president of the United States, it's the most powerful person in the world. That's who President Trump is right now. And everybody is texting him, calling him, and doing everything they can to get in the Oval Office or to somehow find time with him on the weekends.
Yep.
I don't think they'll let up anytime soon. But I will say this, I think it's up to the American people to continue to voice their concerns and express what they want out of this government. And I think that's important no matter who's in charge. And so I hope we continue to have this conversation, and I hope we continue to just make sure what people want is said louder than the small minority here in Washington, D.C. that wants more foreign wars.
I'm going to move on to Israel in a little bit and free speech and all that, but a couple more on Iran here because it's so monumentally important. So look, John Fetterman's saying that we should bomb Iran right now. He's a Democrat. I'm deeply disappointed. Dude,
Fetterman, he's got mental problems right now, like really, really bad. Seriously, I'm not saying that because I don't like the guy or whatever, but apparently his wife has said that he and his staffers both said that he drives recklessly, like insane. Like disturbing how insane he drives, just 70 in a 30 and stuff. It's wild. And he also outright said effectively that he wants the genocide in Ukraine. He wants a genocide in Israel. He wants the genocide. When he had a stroke, something broke in him. Like, to say some shit like that is like, how do you go from a true progressive with a real track record of being progressive to that? Like, wow, dude. Honestly, it's so disturbing. I feel so bad for him. I wish that he wasn't dealing with this, but he's just not the same person that he used to be, truthfully, at all. And for his own good and for ours, we need to get him out of Congress, like, immediately, truthfully.
Disappointed in him. Kamala Harris wrapped her arms around Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney during the campaign. I thought it was a disastrous idea. I said it many times. The neocons are not our friends. And if you're a Democrat and you're embracing neocons, it makes no sense. No ideological sense. It's not principled. It just makes. So if you want to say Liz Cheney did the right thing for about January 6th hearings, etc., probably we could debate that. But I understand that part. But don't go in a neocon direction. Now, having said all that, I'm being honest about it. If Trump does attack Iran, how disappointed will you be in Trump?
I don't see a need to attack.
Okay, we didn't ask you that. We know that you don't, quote unquote, see a need to, but it's almost guaranteed going to happen, so.
Iran. I don't see a need or understand a reason to attack Iran, and the American people don't want a war with Iran.
I love how she literally cannot figure out how to pronounce it correctly. Like, it's just not in her wheelhouse.
For the past several years during the Biden administration, we saw our own borders overrun every single day. And I serve on the
They're just complete nonsense, disgusting, vile nonsense.
Homeland Security Committee. And I can't tell you how many stories, there are too many stories to even comprehend, from families who lost their family member to fentanyl poisoning, or perhaps.
Yeah, that's really sad. I don't like that. I want to, help people with that problem. But we can do all of it. We can both help Ukraine and also, try to fight the, the fentanyl crisis, the drug crisis. We have a lot of fucking money in this country, a lot.
Perhaps some other type of illegal alien crime or murder, whether it was a car accident or an actual rape and murder. And these are the stories I think we should be paying attention to. And this is what matters to me. Our border matters to me, and the American people matter to me.
Please.
And that'll be my continued focus. And that.
Just for the record, she is a vile, racist piece of shit. I say that in more of an analytical way than an offensive way, I'm offended by her or whatever. She's a vile piece of shit, racist as they get, just disgusting, just a disgusting human being with the shit that she says. White supremacist, the whole 9 yards. You know that Hitler got his ideas for the for the race laws, for the Nuremberg laws that he put out in 1935, basically says Jews can't participate in society in any real way. Do you know that Hitler got those laws from us, from America, from U.S. race laws? That's where they came from. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is proudly following in the footsteps of those people that put out those race laws that Hitler borrowed from like that.
Will be my continued voice, my public voice, as well as my private voice, and when I get to speak with the president.
Okay, and you do get to speak with the president, and I don't, so that's important that you deliver that message, so we appreciate it, or at least I appreciate it. I'll speak for myself. And so one last thing on Iran. Look, Iran was in basically a peace deal with us during the Obama years. And we got to take most of their uranium out of their country so they had no ability to develop nuclear weapons. I thought it was a great deal, and I criticized.
It was a phenomenal deal, and the fact that we pulled out of it is the reason why we are talking about war now. Direct consequence, 1-to-1. Trump is responsible for the need for a war with Iran in the first place, or the reason why it would be discussed in the first place. It is his fault.
People on all sides, and I criticized Obama for a lot of things, but I thought that was actually one of his better accomplishments, keeping us out of the war and making sure Iran didn't get nukes. How about going back into that deal?
Well, I think a deal would be important, and perhaps that's what the Trump administration.
But she's going to talk shit about the Iran deal, right? They didn't violate the deal even once. They followed all the expectations and requirements. They met all of the the inspections and everything. Literally no reason to pull out of the Iran deal. None. The only reason that she's talking shit about the Iran deal now is because it's the Republican Party position to talk shit about it. There is no reason for this. None.
President Trump is working towards. He's made that commitment that he doesn't want Iran to ever have a nuclear weapon. And so I'm sure there is a major effort there to make sure it doesn't happen.
Oh my God.
Here's the situation, though, is I'll go back to this. Unless Iran is directly attacking America, attacking the American people, I'm more of let's focus at home. We have tremendous problems here at home, as well as looking at other countries that we don't want to get sucked into their foreign wars. And Ukraine is another one that I think that we need to make sure that we stay out of. These are all of these countries, when we're talking about these geopolitical conflicts, these are places that have had conflicts, some of them longer than I've been alive. And I turned 51 at the end of this month. So
Wow, she turns 51 soon. Damn. She shared a stage with Nick Fuentes. 100% correct. Yep. You're absolutely right. She's actually a Nazi. That's a fair point. Like, not a pretend Nazi, not a I don't like her Nazi, but an actual Nazi. All right, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene attending AFPAC, America First Political Action Conference, hosted by Nick Fuentes, like self-avowed Nazi. He's a Hitler-loving, Sieg-heiling Nazi. Like, he doesn't pretend not to be. He actually is one.
My name is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am the daughter of the King, the one true living God,
The daughter of the fucking king? What?
Alpha, the Omega, our Father in heaven, and I am a forgiven sinner, washed in the blood of our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Bro, I don't know why they're so fucking obsessed with blood, washing yourself in it and boiling lambs in it and shit. Like, why? No more blood. Don't rub it on things. Don't drink it. Don't bathe in it. Don't fucking be anywhere near it, please. It's so weird. So what they're yelling there, Christ is King, is a well-known anti-Semitic dog whistle. People have been saying Christ is King for a long time, right? But Nick Fuentes co-opted it not too long ago as a message to Jews that he doesn't fucking like them. And it's caught on, like, spectacularly. When people say Christ is King, in this context, as neo-Nazis, they're sending a very specific message to other neo-Nazis.
Praise God. Amen. Christ is King.
And now I get you thinking like, okay, that's a little far-fetched. Christ is King is an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Come on. Here we go, right here. This is what I'm talking about.
But I will say that I was one of the first people in a political context on the right wing to start saying Christ is King. That was kind of the Groypers thing for a while.
Groypers is like his movement.
Now, Republican politicians and conservatives would talk about God a lot, and they would talk about Judeo-Christianity. We were the first really explicitly Catholic, really intense, far-right group to say Christ is King. And what's interesting about that phrase is, unlike one nation under God, not everybody can and not everybody will say it. And it's interesting. When you go to some kind of conservative, Republican, liberal, Democratic event, and they say one nation under God, everybody can put their hand over their heart and say that. And when they say, may God protect our troops, everybody can say that. But if you go to a political rally and everyone's chanting Christ is King, if you look around the room, you may notice not everybody is saying the chant. Not everybody can. And by nature, it is exclusionary. Because unlike a vague appeal to God, not everybody can say it. That's because not everybody believes it. And saying it is a way to quickly identify who's really with us, who actually has a faith that is strong and alive. Not every Christian wakes up every day and says, Christ is King. Some liberal Christians wake up and say, we should tolerate everybody and everything's fine. So even some Catholics say that. But for a Catholic to wake up every day and say, Christ is King. Christ is your King. He's my King. He's the King. It's Christ himself. It is not just some vague God. It's a particular one. That's a very quick way to identify who's with us, who's a part of the body of the church, who's a part of the body of Christ, and who's outside of it for one reason or another. And Christ is King is something that actually Jewish people cannot participate in. And if we're to say that the country should be run by Christians, that's also something that Jews actually can't participate in.
So the point is that he's been looking for some dog whistle that he can use to exclude people that do not align with him ideologically, and Christ is King is the thing. Christ is King can't be said by Jews when In God We Trust can, for example. That's the point. That's why it's an anti-Semitic dog whistle. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's no way that she didn't know that when attending AFPAC. I don't know about you guys, but when I speak at conferences, when I'm invited to speak at conferences, I look into it. I want to make sure that the organizers aren't, they don't have like sexual assault allegations against them and shit. I want to make sure that they're not, scumbags, if they don't have like anti-trans views or any of the other shit that comes along with like being a fucking scumbag in the atheist community nowadays. I check into people. And if I had a team, staffers, I would definitely be checking into people because I wouldn't even have to. I'd have somebody else check into them for me. Marjorie Taylor Greene could not possibly have not known that he was a Nazi. There's no way in hell you cannot convince me that she did not know that. And you can't convince me she didn't know that Christ is King is a Nazi dog whistle. You cannot convince me of it. She knew what she was doing. She's a Nazi. And what's more, even if she doesn't like openly admit to like being a Nazi, she openly admits to Nazi beliefs. So, Cenk having her on, I'm okay with that actually, really. I'm okay with him having her on and talking to her and debating and even agreeing on some things. I'm okay with all that, really. But you have to push back and you have to make sure your audience is aware that she's a fucking Nazi.
Middle East or some kind of conflict over in Eastern Europe or wherever it is, I really think for me my main focus is let's fix America. Let's fix our problems because our problems are quite significant.
Yeah. All right.
We can do all of it if we tax easily earned tax dollars, like easily earned money, like billionaire money, for example. Why the fuck do billionaires get breaks on this? I don't understand. What's the point? What is the purpose of giving billionaires such massive breaks? You know what the point is? They claim that it stimulates the economy. That's a complete fucking lie. It's a lie. It does not work that way. It's never worked that way. It's nonsense. Something called the Laffer curve. If you guys have ever heard of the Laffer curve, it was this, basically trickle-down economics is right-wing billionaire propaganda. Trickle-down economics never worked. It was never, like, no serious human being on planet Earth ever thought that it would work. It was only billionaires. And they got some economists to fabricate some shit, some graphs and stuff they call the Laffer curve to prove that trickle-down economics really does work. But every time trickle-down economics is implemented on a reasonably large scale, it fucking destroys everything. It destroyed Kansas. Governor Brownback of Kansas implemented trickle-down economics in full in his state, and it destroyed his state. He was excised from the Republican Party and sent to do some menial job somewhere and is no longer heard from because he made trickle-down economics look bad by implementing it. None of these things work in practice, and everybody knows that that's the case, but they keep pushing this nonsense anyway.
Right, so now a related issue, because I think the neocons got there because of campaign donations, and Israel has taken about $300 billion adjusted for inflation over their lifetime from America, or we've given it to them because they're a special ally, whatever that means. I don't know what it means, and so.
Yeah, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's not that she cares about Palestinians. She doesn't. She fucking hates Jews. That's why she's opposed to Israel. Again, like, I appreciate that she is kind of fighting for the same goal as me, I guess, but we are on two very different sides of this problem. And she can sit over there in the corner and work on it from her end. And if she gets what I want accomplished, fantastic. But I want nothing to do with that. That is vile.
So I actually said that the other day, and somebody on social media, a right-winger on social media, was like, "Hey, Grok, is that true?" And Grok was like, "Actually, it's a little higher. It's around $311 billion." So,
I didn't consider that. Grok being around for fact checks, that's super convenient. And on top of that, Grok, to my knowledge, is open source. So that's pretty fucking cool.
Do we have to keep giving money to Israel, or can we just say, hey, that's enough? You're a grown-up country. You're one of the top 20 economies in the world. You have universal health care. We don't. You have paid family leave. We don't. Is it time to stop giving money to Israel?
I was
I don't like this line of argumentation that Cenk is laying down. It's the same one that Marjorie Taylor Greene was using. You have universal health care, but we don't. We should be spending our money on that instead of you. I don't want us spending any money on Israel. Zero. Cut it all off. But we can do everything at once. Like, we don't have to pick between defending Ukraine and giving our people universal health care. That's just like, that's another piece of billionaire propaganda in my mind. Tax easily earned money.
We don't. Is it time to stop giving money to Israel?
I would say it's time to stop giving money to pretty much every single country around the world. I'm very much against foreign donations to countries all over the world, especially when we're in $36 trillion in debt.
Whose fault is that, Marjorie? Who the f*** do you think put us there? It was Republicans doing their starve the beast strategy. Cut taxes into the ground so that Democrats have no choice but to cut social programs. Nobody has a choice now because we literally cannot afford to continue unless we cut social programs. There is a way out of this. We don't have to cut the social programs, actually. We can simply tax the rich. Tax easily earned money.
It saddens me to see homeless veterans on our streets. It saddens me talking to senior citizens that can hardly afford to pay rent or pay for their medications and food. I really think that our money needs to stay at home and fix our own problems. But I'd also like to remind you, it's both sides of the aisle. With the Ukraine war, even AOC.
See, this is what she's going to do. I knew she was going to do this. She's going to try to slip Ukraine into this whole argument. She's going to try to make it out as though Iran putting boots on the ground and fighting in Iran is equally as absurd as funding Ukraine. It's just disgusting that Cenk is allowing this conversation to happen like this without any pushback.
Voted to fund the Ukraine war. It's Republicans and Democrats together, and
Cenk is in a position now where he cannot disagree with her, because this is an anti-war conversation. When we were never talking about being in war in Ukraine, we were just funding an ally to promote democracy and to fight against, authoritarianism.
The uniparty is real. It is definitely a real thing here in Washington, and they're driven to continue funding foreign aid and funding foreign countries and funding foreign wars. And I think that is, I don't know how to break that cycle. I do the best I can by being very vocal about it, as I'm one member of Congress out of 435, but I will continue urging that direction to go in.
So it's certainly bipartisan, yes. Both parties are very happy to give more and more money to Israel. I'm sure the fact that AIPAC was the #1 donor in this campaign cycle is just a coincidence, just randomly. It wouldn't affect it at all. I hear from mainstream media reporters that politicians don't care about money. But let's continue a little bit more, because Trump said this wild plan about how we were going to take over Gaza and we were going to own Gaza and we were going to take care of the unexploded bombs for Israel in Gaza. I assume you're against all that?
Yes, I'm not supporting that. I'm not interested in taking over some part of the Middle East. I'm unapologetically American, and I can't repeat that message loud enough.
I'm also unapologetically American, but, not for nothing. I still care about Palestinians' well-being and Ukrainians. I care about other people's well-being, too. You know why? Because I'm not unapologetically American exceptionalist. I don't believe that Americans are the only ones that matter. I just think that Americans should matter. We should have universal health care. We should have a robust social security system that isn't gutted every 15 seconds by Republicans. We should have a robust social safety net. We should be taxing the f*** out of the rich, not just to fund the government, but as a punishment at this point, because I'm fucking sick of them. We can do all of that and also care about other people's well-being in addition to that.
and over again. We've got people in Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and Northeast Georgia that their homes have still not been rebuilt from Hurricane Helene.
Like she gives a fuck about them. Has she literally said a fucking word about them up to this point? Of course she hasn't. It's always been about finding reasons to demonize Ukraine and not work with them or whatever. She's such a vile man. I'm sorry. Look, I don't like making fun of people. I don't like, calling people names or insulting or whatever. I don't think that's the right thing to do, but she's a vile human being, honestly.
Look at over in California, Malibu, where many people's homes were destroyed from the wildfires. And we could name different parts of the country, Lahaina, Hawaii, and on and on. And before we go in and try to clean up anybody else's mess or pay for reconstruction in any country, whether it's Gaza or Ukraine, and I don't think we should be doing that either.
Yeah, I don't think we should be. I don't know. I mean, it's complicated. I guess it's case by case. Like, I feel like we should be paying for some degree of construction or reconstruction in Iraq because, how many civilians have died in Israel up to this point? Like, how many Palestinians Israel has killed? Used to be 2.2 million. Now they're about 1.5 million, give or take. Killed 700,000 civilians in Gaza. That is fucking horrifying, right? Do you know how many we killed civilians in Iraq? 1 million. We killed 1 million civilians in Iraq. Not military combatants, innocent people that were just living their fucking lives. They kind of deserve a little bit, of like reconstruction, right? Iraq wasn't really that bad as far as countries in the Middle East go. It was not a Muslim dictatorship. Saddam Hussein, though he was a dictator and a fucking monster, was a secularist. And then America came along and said, we're going to make democracy happen, and just destroyed the fucking country. So I'm okay with like spending money on things like funding Sesame Street or whatever in Iraq to try to maybe help the children, rebuild the education system to some degree, improve literacy, that type of deal. I'm down for that. But I agree that for the most part, we shouldn't really be funding foreign reconstruction by and large.
I think we should rebuild here in America and help Americans first.
All right, let's go to America and as these issues affect us here at home. So now people are getting snatched up off the streets. Mahmoud Halil, Öztürk, who wrote an op-ed against Israel.
Brother, she doesn't give a fuck about Muslims or about Middle Eastern people in any way. If they have a slightly darker skin tone, she doesn't give a fuck about them. Just putting that out there for you. Just dropping that in your ear.
Or criticizing the current Israeli government. And now they're arrested and potentially deported. And they were here legally on visas or as on green cards. Seems to be a direct attack on freedom of speech. What's your stance on those arrests?
Well, I think freedom of speech extends to Americans. I haven't really been vocal on any of those issues.
Yeah, no fucking shit. Really? We know that.
That's been more some of my other Republican colleagues that have been addressing those issues.
Because she doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't like Muslims. If she were actually like in favor of Palestinians or opposed to what Israel is up to right now, she would have opposed what was happening to Mahmoud Khalil or whoever. But she doesn't, of course. She doesn't care about Palestinians. She just fucking hates Jews. That's the bottom line here. That's the problem.
I think being an American citizen is a pretty special privilege. But if you're here on a visa or a green card, then I think you should be respectful towards America and the people that we stand with. And so if they've done something wrong, then I have no problem with them being deported.
Right.
But they haven't. They literally were just saying, they were doing exactly what she's doing, opposing the Israeli occupation of Gaza. Or the genocide, one should actually say, the genocide of Gaza. That is what they were doing. That's it. No more, no less. Again, this is what happens when you don't care for Palestinians, you fucking hate Jews. That's the result. you get shit like this.
Right. If it turns out that the reporting is accurate, and Öztürk as an example, the Turkish student up in Tufts, she just wrote an op-ed. Didn't do anything else, didn't say anything against America, just criticizing Israel and calling for an economic boycott. The Supreme Court has said that freedom of speech and our Constitution applies to everybody in the country, including resident aliens, that's legal aliens who have a green card, and people on visas. So it could corrode our freedom of speech if they're not allowed to criticize Israel. Does it bother you that it's just this one country that you're not allowed to criticize here in America, no matter what your status is?
Well, I definitely stand for people's free speech. That is something that I'm on record doing, even speech that I disagree with. Let me tell you, probably a lot of people watching this show have said horrible speech against me, probably in my comments and all over social media.
Your comments? Does she have a YouTube channel or something?
And probably on the show, you guys have probably said ugly speech against me. So but I still stand as a United States representative defending free speech. And I think I defend free speech probably more than most members of Congress, including many Democrats.
And is that why you are in favor of helping Mahmoud Khalil? She has no interest in helping a Palestinian. She just fucking hates Jews, bottom line.
You say a lot of nice things about. And I want to make sure that for the record, everyone knows that I single-handedly came out so hard against a boycott bill that was going to be brought to the floor on Monday because I thought it was a violation of free speech that I took it down. And it wasn't voted on this week. And because I believe Americans have the right to buy or boycott any product or country that they want. So I have a
yeah, that's a big problem. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions is something that businesses can engage in the United States. There's like a boycott list of companies that support the genocide in Israel. Like Sabra, produces like hummus. I think that I could be wrong here, so don't quote me on it. I believe that that's made in Israel. It's one of their biggest exports, and they support the genocide in Ukraine or in Palestine. So companies who engage in BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions, they will not stock their shelves with Sabra, for example. They'll find a different hummus brand or whatever. That's illegal. That's against the law. You are not legally allowed to do that in the United States. What? How is that not free speech? That is the definition of free speech, right? I don't know how anybody could ever justify something like that. Not Sabra. Well, I usually get my hummus from the health food store anyway. Yeah, I love hummus. Like, I boycott certain companies, but I feel like it needs to be a targeted, organized effort. Just cutting them out of your whatever doesn't really hurt the company, doesn't really send them a message or whatever exactly. Like, there are Republicans that are still boycotting Bud Light, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, they just cut them out of their market and move on with their lives, But the targeted boycott of Bud Light originally did a lot of good. You can use it to send messages immediately, but long-term boycotts don't do anything.
So I have a very strong record, as well as I've defended Julian Assange, Eric Snowden, and many others.
Eric Snowden, I love it. Now that she said that, I suddenly cannot remember his first name because Eric is stuck in my head now. Who the fuck is it? Edward Snowden. She's so stupid, dude. This is like one of those gazpacho things, right? The American gazpacho. Not the Gestapo, but the gazpacho. She's so entertaining. If nothing else, she's entertaining as hell, right? Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not going to insult people. Julian Assange, actually, I'm not really sure how I feel fully, but I'm kind of leaning toward maybe he deserves to be in the legal situation that he's in right now. If you don't know why Julian Assange is like facing heat or has faced heat in the past, it's because he wanted Donald Trump to win the 2016 election and selectively leaked information, leaked Hillary's emails. He leaked information given to him from Russia that would be beneficial to Donald Trump in the 2016 election. He directly interfered, or he facilitated Russia directly interfering in the 2016 election and directly leading to Donald Trump's victory. Leaking that information, I don't think should necessarily lead to legal problems, but directly interfering in the election that way, I'm thinking maybe it should. I don't know. Tell me what you think about it.